Hi, I'm Ryan.
Hey, I'm Nate.
Hello, I'm Steve.
We're the Dungeon Vets. We are veterans of the United States Armed Forces and veterans of Dungeons and Dragons. And what we do here is we take media content from books, video games, TV shows, movies, and we D&Dify it. We take a look at how that media would be in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, which is something we're all very familiar with. And today we're going to be going over Princess Mononoke, the 1997 Studio Ghibli film, directed and produced or written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. We're going to take a look at. We're going to talk about the movie. We're going to go through it, give everyone get everyone's thoughts from it, and then see how we can put that movie in D&D and what you can take away from as a DM or a player from the movie itself. But to get started, this was both your first time seeing it, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and I've seen it 3 times. I've seen it in sub and in dub.
Actually, to be fair, I since we decided that we were going to discuss Princess Mononoke, I watched it 2 times. It was my first time seeing it when we decided to talk about it.
Well, then that's very diligent of you.
Yeah, doing your research.
I saw when I first saw it was the English dubbed version with that big cast, Keith David, Billy Bob Thornton. But the second time I watched it, I watched the Japanese version with subtitles.
But okay, so what did you guys think of the film? Give it a rating out of 5 stars, and just a quick, what do you think about it?
I fucking loved it. I love this movie. This is not only the first time I've seen Princess Mononoke, this is the first Studio Ghibli film I've ever seen. I've heard about them. I've seen little clips and memes and whatever you like from them. I saw Binging with Babish do his thing from Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
I've been exposed to Studio Ghibli stuff before, but I have never actually watched any of their productions. And it's so fucking good. I loved it. I loved it. The first time I was watching through it, I was like, holy shit, why have I not actually sat down and watched one of these before? And then the second time I sat down and watched the Japanese version, I was like, this is still so good.
Yeah, it's
So what's your rating?
I mean, it's hard to give anything a 5 out of 5. It's I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Dang,
I do a half? Can we do anything over half star ratings? I've given this
sure.
a 4.8 or something, I think. I loved this film.
That's as good as the ramen shop down the street.
But on Google reviews?
Yeah.
I would give it 2 out of 5 stars.
Oh my, what?
I got through the movie, but I wouldn't say that I was really entertained. And I went and watched YouTube clips because I didn't really want to go watch the movie a second time. So I don't share your feelings, Nate.
That's really surprising.
Blown away.
I will say this is also the first time I've seen the movie. It's also the first Studio Ghibli film that I've ever seen as well. I've heard all the good things. I've seen the memes and stuff too. There's a lot of cool things to take away. I don't want to stray away from when we talk about D&D and stuff. There's a lot of cool things that I will have to say. But as far as just enjoying the movie, I was like, man, I wouldn't. The story itself didn't seem to be like a cohesive. It felt like it was more just like a sequence of events, and then it was and now it's over.
I knew when I watched it this most recent time that you were going to bring up the pacing. And it is only 120 minutes, and it's not.
But 2 hours is 2 hours is a decent film, especially if
it's a little over 2 hours, I think. And that's a relatively long film, especially by these
for
standards.
An anime movie.
I did. On a slight tangent, I was reading up on I think it was just the Wikipedia page for it. The studio, Harvey Weinstein's studio, they wanted to cut it down to 90 minutes for a release to English-speaking audiences. And
did we get bored?
Yeah, I guess. Miyazaki, right? That was the one who...
Yeah, Hayao Miyazaki.
Yes, Miyazaki said no cuts.
I shudder to agree with Harvey Weinstein. But yeah, I got kind of bored. And I think that there could have been cuts in there.
Oh, man. Well, hold on. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of it and why I highly disagree with you, Ryan, you're not a first-time viewer, but what's your rating of the film?
So this is like my third time watching it in a different setting, and I've seen the Japanese version and the English version. I give it about a 4.5. Whenever you watch a Studio Ghibli film, whether it's like Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle, it puts you forcibly in this like state of mind where you can just relax and enjoy this, I think, a nicely told story. I think the characters are really deep, and it goes through the story really well. I think it does feel rushed at the same time because of all of the events that are happening. But yeah, 4.5 for me. Really surprised you went down as low as a 2.
So like, yeah. I didn't quite enjoy it, and so I don't think that I could go 3. I think that if you don't enjoy something, I think it's sub 3.
Yeah,
and it's fair. Like it was a slog for me to kind of get through it. So,
wow, I am still somewhat surprised to hear that you didn't like it, and we're not a movie critiquing or reviewing.
Yeah, we're not. You're right.
Show or channel or whatever it is that we are necessarily, but
hold on, I want to for anyone who hasn't seen Princess Mononoke, it is the basically the series of adventures following this main character who has become cursed, and he is going out trying to fix this curse that is going to kill him. He ends up adventuring into a whole new world that is mostly kind of alien to him, and exploring and meeting new people and different ideologies of people is the big part. And it's a big nature versus industry kind of movie. But yeah, we are going to go into it now.
All right, so Ashitaka gets cursed, right? And he has to leave.
He's in his village.
And
he's defending his village from a demon boar god.
Well, hold on. You're skipping through some great D&D content right there.
Yeah, like I said, I thought I was just talking about what I didn't like.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't have all day, so.
What? So, but you like when you just said that like he goes to this other part of the country that is mostly kind of alien to him. You call it a whole new world. He handles himself and seems to interact with these spirits of the forest and everything as if he knows everything about everything. And this is kind of a classic trope of especially earlier anime protagonists. And so like I will admit that I have a little bit of a bias against that. So as soon as I see that, I can, like, I know what he's going to do in any given scenario. It's going to be, like, the coolest, most victorious thing that he could have done, probably. And that's essentially what he does most of the time.
But, yeah, I mean, you do have a point. He is an anime protagonist. He is...
An early, a 90s anime protagonist.
Late 90s. You know, but, I mean, there is some stuff that we kind of have to assume about him, but is maybe explained a little bit, like his people, oh my god, what are they called? The Akeshi? But his people were like forced out, and now they're living in exile in this small village, and he is a prince, so it's kind of assumed that like he's, I don't know, someone of note. And then you have the village elder that comes out after the demon attacks, and after Ashitaki kills it. She comes and she knows exactly what to do, and she pays respects to the thing. So we kind of do get the feeling right off the bat that this is a community of people who have a strong connection with nature. So I don't think his like immediately knowing what and interacting pleasantly with the forest spirits is too far-fetched.
Yeah, and in those short 20 minutes from the beginning of the movie, from Keith David in English, his overture, and into the movie, it's in 20 minutes, he's already gone, but you do get quite a bit of world building. Considering where you learn where he came from, you learn that his people are, for some reason, banished. but had this, like you said, this great reverence for nature, which is a backdrop for why he is so why he takes the sides that he does take later in the film, and why he's familiar with the little forest spirits. The what were they called?
Kodamas?
Kodama. Yeah, Kodamas. I only know that because I just watched the Japanese version. They're called Kodama. I don't think they mention that in the English. I could be wrong. Maybe they do.
Yeah, I've seen them on like bumper stickers and on people's cars. And
I love those little guys.
Those little guys. I like the little butts.
Yeah, they got little butts. And I love the way that when he's leading, he's carrying the guy on his back. They're like kind of mocking him in a way, or just imitating him with them like hopping up on each other's shoulders. It's the most cute, silly little thing. I love it.
Cute little fae spirit type creatures. This is a great backdrop for a campaign. You start off in this little area. Your enclave comes under attack, and then bam, you're ousted immediately out into this great world that you get to
level 1.
Yeah, level 1.
I was actually going to say, after I had watched it, that it would be also great inspiration for a character backstory in whatever campaign you might want. And there's a lot of ways to tweak that kind of thing. Like whether you're a noble or not, like, oh, I go defend my village. I get this weird curse on me. It gives me abilities, but I am shunned from my village as a result of it. That's that is the foundation for a really interesting backstory that you could absolutely build on and tweak it in your own ways.
There are so many ways to go about just doing that. Like, bam, what if you're starting a second level and you're a fighter 1, warlock 1?
Oh, that was my thought too. Is like, what if you're like, I don't know, an eldritch knight or something like that? Like, you've got some magical ability. Like, oh, here's how you got it. Like, or a warlock. Anyway, there's a lot of possibilities.
More into the world. More into the world itself later, and how that is, I think, an amazing backdrop for a D&D campaign. But moving forward, so Ashitaka leaves his village and he immediately enters this countryside where you learn a bit more about his abilities, that his curse makes him very strong. He happens on this battle where these samurai-looking guys are raiding a village, and 2 of them come after him. And if I remember, his first shot... this guy has his arms up with like a sword, and his shot takes both of the guy's arms and sticks them into a tree.
He had just like attacked this farmer woman, like hit her in the back, and then as he raises his sword again, they just get severed and pinned to the tree.
And he was surprised. I laughed. I was like, what? And then
what's great is Ashitaka is just as surprised as we are as an audience. I think he's like, what?
Yeah, and then he's riding along with another one who shoots an arrow at him. Very cool animation of that arrow coming towards the camera.
Yeah,
that is very cool because the way it like curves.
It curved. And then he shoots back and decapitates him.
And then the other
guy's
samurai,
like, oh, I'm good. Bye.
Yeah, the other samurai behind him is like, nope. That's a demon boy right there. I ain't messing with that. No, sir.
Yeah, I thought that was so funny, and you learn that he's super powerful now.
Yeah, from the curse.
The demon arm gives him a whole lot of strength.
But then what happens next is he gets to an actual town, right? He gets to an actual town. Him and his red elk companion mount.
It was the town that they were attacking, I believe. They were attacking like the farms and the outskirts of this village, and then he comes into the village proper, where he meets.
That's where he meets Jingo.
Jingo, there we go. That's his name.
So Ashitaka runs up or goes up to the village, and he needs food or he needs feed, and he gets like this bag of rice, and he's like, all I got are these gold nuggets, so that should be good, right?
One little gold thing.
One tiny gold nugget, and the woman's like,
this ain't
money. What do I
do
with this? This ain't worth anything. And then, bam, great segue for a player character or an NPC, the monk who is more worldly and maybe even a bit shady, comes in, introduces himself. Yeah, let me see this. And this is worth 4 bags of rice. Roll persuasion check.
But of course he doesn't take it. No, I don't need that.
Oh no,
He's too good of a
he's,
guy.
he's too noble.
Oh no, he just wants
Takes
to be
what he
out
needs.
of there.
But okay, yeah. So they meet Jigo, and they're in this village. Cool backdrop for just a small town in this village, or in this country, I guess you would call it. And then we finally get the introduction to San and Lady Eboshi.
There's a raiding party of wolves and a lone young woman riding one of the wolves, attacking this just column of people who have the hand cannons like we were talking about earlier. And they drive them off.
Clearly they know something's about to happen to them. And that's why they have all those guards.
Yeah, definitely. This is a reoccurring thing. And they handle themselves pretty well. The wolves scatter some oxen, they hurt some people, but they drive them off, shoot them up a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, they hit the wolf god Moro.
Yeah.
This is a great just the cinematic in general to set basically the baseline for what this world is about. There are these super powerful animal-based spirits that are fighting back against this hard industrialization of this big forest area. I think that is an amazing backdrop for a campaign. And this is definitely a campaign world that I would love to play a druid in, and I'm not really a druid kind of guy. What would you want to play in this world? And you can't say fighter, Nate.
They're always good.
You can say fighter, but what else would you want to play?
A warlock, which is actually the class I always want to play. You should know that by now. A warlock, because you could make imagine a pact with a warlock pact doesn't always have to be with some crazy demon or great old one kind of thing.
Archfey could work for this.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's really fitting for some of the themes that we see in the film, like the great forest spirit, the deer god, or the great forest spirit,
the boar god,
or any of them, honestly, any of those
could be Archfey.
Those big boys, you could make a pact with. And
what about you, Steve?
I think druid is pretty enticing. This also makes me really kind of think of an elements monk. 4 elements monk. I like the feel of being connected to obviously the environment versus just the taking from the environment is central here. And so something that plays into that would be really interesting, like a druid or a monk or a nature cleric, maybe.
It could be interesting too, I think, to create a character that's going against this nature. Because I mean, the whole film is about man versus nature, basically, and how it could balance, how it can't. And so to be on the other
forge
side,
cleric.
Yeah. That's a great example of being on the side of the opposite side of things. Like, I'm all about industry. Let's advance things.
Because then it's not just like, oh, I want to do industry and all this kind of stuff. It's divine to do so. And his belief is grounded in his abilities to actually play the game of D&D. It's not like the fighter who wants to make bullets and stuff like that, and you can sway him into peacefulness. It's just like, no, if you change this cleric's mind, he's not going to be a forge cleric anymore. He's going to forego his god or something, and
he's going to be Jigo,
ripe with some conflict and some consequences.
But I think I would play an Ancients Paladin. It's a kind of seldom used subclass for sure.
What paladin?
You have Ancients, Oath of the Ancients.
Oath of the Ancients, yeah. Okay.
Imagine, you take an oath, or you're a Green Knight, or some type of equivalent in this world, and you are protecting these woodland god creatures. I think that'd be pretty neat, pretty compelling. In this world, you could flavor that even as a samurai type looking thing. And I don't think Ancients is used very enough, or even enough, because we have Conquest and Vengeance, all the other strong paladins.
I mean, you could easily make a Vengeance Paladin in this too, just kind of flavor it with that more naturey sort of thing. I think that's kind of what what San is. San, you could almost say San is a Vengeance Paladin.
You could also do it the opposite. My parents were killed by a wolf god. I'm going to get vengeance on the wolf god.
To be honest, there's vengeance paladins to be made in almost any film setting.
That's true.
Yeah, everyone,
you're right.
Everyone loves their vengeance. But okay, so the wolves are driven off. He saves a couple of guys from the river and briefly speaks to San, but she's just like, leave, and she runs off. And so he heads to Iron Town. Is that what you said it was called?
Iron
Town.
Or the Ironworks.
Iron Town. And this is like, they're all like, oh, you're a really great, strong man. And then the women are all like, oh, my goodness. And
also goes through the forbidden wood that no one gets through alive.
After having just saved their husbands.
He goes through the woods, finds the fountain of healing that is deep within the center of the wood. And then makes it out. And they're like, not only did you make it out alive, you got a cool elk, and you brought back these two dudes. And you're hot.
He is a prince. I mean, you ever seen an ugly prince?
The Habsburgs would like to speak.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about real life. I'm talking about anime princes, all right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. But yeah, and so, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but in English, Jada Pinkett Smith voices Toki.
And that was there are two big ones that really stood out to me as not fitting their characters. It was Billy Bob Thornton as Jigo, is it? And Jada Pinkett Smith as Toki. And both of them, I think, did a really good job of acting out a character.
She put a lot into it.
She did. Both of them did, and it does not fit at all with the way their character looks.
But yeah, they get there, and yes, his princeliness woos everybody with his nobility and his two shoes that are good. Then he meets Lady Eboshi.
Yeah.
After, right?
Pretty quickly.
A very interesting character.
So, setting up the villain, right? A humanized villain.
A villain.
Is Eboshi a villain?
Well, that's...
Is she more of an antagonist, I think?
Yeah, antagonist is a much better word. Yes.
Okay. And I just think that's important to note because villains, I think, are a huge part of D&D normally. This setting, I think, is an interesting way to create something where you can have lots of conflict without necessarily any villains, per se. But we find out that she is bad in some ways, right? That's what we find out.
Yeah, well, let's talk about her and how she develops. You know, she's established this town in the Ironworks with a lot of pressure from Asano?
Lord Asano, yeah.
Asano, yeah. He's the one who's sending the samurai to attack her and the villages and stuff like that. Because she has carved out this iron-producing town from the Boar's forest. The forest that originally belonged to the Boar... You call it the Boar tribe? Or the Boar clan.
Yeah.
Nago, yeah.
Nago he's one of them. He was the original boar that was killed in the beginning because of a bullet.
Well, yeah. We never mentioned that. He became a boar god because he was shot.
No.
And there was this...
He became a demon boar god.
A demon god because he was shot and the bullet stayed inside of him and just continued to poison him.
Yep.
Classic Fae iron.
Oh yeah. Honestly,
interaction.
I literally did not make that connection until you just mentioned it. But yeah, that is
really?
a total. Yeah. I was just thinking, I'd be pretty pissed if I had a giant iron ball in breaking my ribs and grinding my entrails, like it said in the film. That would piss me off too. I didn't make the connection between Fae and iron at all.
Or spirit and iron, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so absolutely, Eboshi. It's hard to call her a villain, like you said. Maybe she's an antagonist. She does save women from sexual slavery and gives them a purpose.
She was the one who shot Nago.
That's right. Her herself, yeah. Not just one of her creations.
But it was part of setting up this town, providing an avenue out of slavery for these women. You know, like there's good things that she's done in these bad things that she committed.
And the lepers. She comes and saves the lepers and gives them a place. But I mean, ultimately, to put it just like straight and bluntly, Lady Eboshi, I think, represents modern humanity, modern industrialized humanity. We do a lot of things that greatly harm nature that also benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's well intentioned for the most part.
So going into from a player and a DM perspective, how do you feel about, if you were a player, let's say, being introduced to this character who is antagonistic to your worldview, but you're also introduced to the facts that they are also a very good person. They make this place for outcasts and save others. How would you feel as a player?
I think it's brilliant. You have to confront your belief system, because it's like, if you believe in nature, and most players are good, right? Most players play something that is in some way good, and so when you're then presented with the evidence of like, look at these good things that she has done that would not exist. These women would be in sexual slavery without her, without this town here, without the work that the town provides. And it's, you then have to think about, oh, well, is getting vengeance for the forest that important? And, that's interesting. That's so interesting. So anytime when there is a way for your own character to evolve their worldview, and maybe it's just like, no, slaughter them all. That's cool too. I think it's great.
From a perspective as a player, I both hate and love those sort of ambiguous sort of things. Because on one hand, it makes for so much more interesting of an antagonist when they're doing some good, some bad. On the other hand, I as a player, I always feel like I have to decide for my character. Like, I feel like they have to pick a side. And they have to go for it, You
don't want to be oh man, this is complicated.
Exactly. With D&D, I think it's rare that you can effectively toe the line, so to speak. Especially
you
when
play characters who stomp on one side of the line.
I mean, that's true, but I would argue that I think most characters do. And if you have a D&D party who encounters this sort of villain, I think they're probably going to go one way or the other. And so for me as a player, I love those things, but it's also a struggle to decide sometimes, unless I have a character who's just like fanatic about this, so it's not, any struggle for my character. But to decide, like, shit, where does my character fall on this? And can they reconcile, choosing this way while knowing that they are actually doing some good that character likes?
Yeah, and so going into the next part of the story, after he arrives in the town, pretty quickly on, I think he could have done a better job at this in the film, achieving this, at least Ashitaka realizing that there's like a gray area, but he seems kind of like, this is going to be fun, I'm going to enjoy this for the night, but then I got to go and tear down this whole place. And then San doesn't come yet. Oh, yes, she does, doesn't she? San attacks the...
yeah, she comes in the night.
San, who I thought was Princess Mononoke for like 20 years. I just thought that was her.
She is.
Like that was her name.
Is it?
Oh, you mean okay? I mean, it is her name. It's a name
it is
for
her name. She is like,
it's like a moniker,
like
right?
a vengeful spirit.
Yeah.
Mononoke is like a vengeful spirit.
Okay, yeah.
But I thought that was like, I would look up her name and be like, San Mononoke. That's not the right person. Anyway, she attacks with the intention of killing Eboshi. That is why she has come to the town.
Yes.
And we learn the wolf girl, she was adopted by Moro, the wolf god. So she fails. Ashitaka then puts his goodwill that he has built up over the course of these 8 minutes and has basically told the town, if you're going to kill her, you got to kill me. And all of you love me.
I mean, one of them shoots him.
But by accident.
Yeah. And then he takes the bullet or the round.
Literally in stride.
Yeah, just continues walking as he is carrying this wounded San out of Irontown. He is confronted with a door that takes 10 men to open. But, he leans into it really hard, and it eventually opens.
Demon arm!
But he leaves, and then immediately, I remember even when I watched this as a kid, I was like, okay, he's going to go to the healing forest. Right? Then he gets on Yakul, and then the wolves basically go and help him get to the healing part of the forest, where he is dumped in the water and is not healing fast enough to save from this wound. But San, who is feeling thankful for her life maybe, but also like a little like, fuck you, I wanted to die. I don't know. Her feelings are complicated. Drags him to the central island where finally the big kahuna,
the man himself, the deer god,
the god of the forest, shows up. Which, what did you think of when you first saw him? I thought it was just going to be a big deer with a bunch of antlers. I like the way that looks. Maybe that's a more European thing. But then when I saw, he doesn't have a neck. He just...
And he's got the weird face, and you see it straight on, and I was just like... I couldn't explain my reactions to seeing his face close up for the first time. It was just, oh, what?
Yeah, the word "oh" I think is really good.
Definitely a big "oh." Yeah, and he heals him. The Night Walker / God of the Forest decides to heal the character, which I think would be a really cool moment in D&D or outside of D&D. How would you feel if you went down and got stabilized and saved? I think it would be.
So what are we saying here? That he, failed all of his death saves? He actually died? Or
he's about to die. It is inextricably nothing that can do without intervention that your character is about to bleed out.
I feel like that's 3 death saves then. If it's without, like, no intervention could save him.
Well, it could be stabilized. Stabilized, but bleeding out. Over
but then he's not
stable.
If he's stabilized, if he's bleeding out, he ain't stabilized.
Okay, he's not going to die in 30 seconds. He's going to die in 30 minutes, let's say, or something.
I don't know if that feels like the DM coming to save him. Now.
I would agree.
Well, Nate's already cheating on his character and has 6 different backups. So you probably want to die if that's you.
Well, see, that's exactly what I was going to say is like, well, I think there should be good DM player communication because maybe the player is like all right with him dying. Like, yeah, I want that was a glorious death. Please let it end there. Yeah. On the other hand, you might go ahead, Steve.
I was just saying I don't know because wouldn't you say that the whole quest of Ashitaka is to cure himself?
Yeah, his quest isn't over.
Yeah,
and so like that's kind of an unsatisfying end to his campaign. I think that he wants to survive so that he can continue on, and like I agree with you that if you talk with your DM though it can be done well, but I just to Ryan's question I guess like I'd be skeptical of it.
Yeah, I was talking more like just in general, like if a player does that cool thing and that's they've died and they want to be like, okay, that's a great end for my character, I want to make a new one, great. Or if you have a player that says, oh, shit, I died. That was awesome. And now I have to give up this character. I don't want to make a new one. I love this one. You, as a DM, could give them another chance.
And I think in most cases, consider this from the party perspective. If someone in the party goes down or dies, if it's a possibility that we could bring him back, the party is then like, all right, how do we bring him back? Where's the man of the mountains that we got to go find? Yeah. What is this whole, how do we get doing with this? I think that would be a very easy, if you set up as a DM this healing pond in the woods and then a character goes down, the rest of the party, imagine instead of Ashitaka, it's a party. Immediately the party is going to think, bring him to the forest, like bring him to the woods, throw him in the water.
It's going to be y'all one of these days, and I'm going to be like, oh man, that was such a cool death for my character. I'm ready to make a new one. And you're going to be like, no, we're going to drag him to the healing pond and bring him back.
Well, You better believe that that's what will happen with the current characters that we have. All right?
That's what you guys tried to do when Civ died. Immediately you were like, Civ was disintegrated. And immediately you guys were like, all right, let's get her ashes in a jar. Let's...
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case it's possible. Quick DM tip. If you have a player or a character, not a player who's died. If you had a character who has died, and you're not sure whether, and you have this opportunity to bring them back or anything, talk to your player. Hey, are you happy dying here? Do you want to be brought back? Send them a message on Discord, or if you're in person, take them to the back room, the Whispers room.
Slip them a sticky note that says, do you want to die?
Yeah, or do you want a possibility of your character being brought back? I've asked several players that when their characters have died, who have the opportunity to be brought back. And at least in our circumstances, everyone's been like, let him go. They had a good run.
We love our character deaths.
We do like our character deaths.
Sometimes.
Sometimes they can be mistakes.
Yeah. They're not all glorious.
In the Boars, the family and progeny of the boar god that originally died has arrived on the scene, and they've decided enough is enough. We're going to make a final battle against the humans, and we're going to kill them all.
Glorious charge.
One big, glorious, stubborn, boar-headed charge.
The last charge of the Boar Brigade.
All right, and then so after the boars show up, the boars are basically going to attack. Jigo turns out to be a bad guy. Who saw that coming? And with his plans to assassinate the boar god, or the big god, the forest god, the boars attack the Irontown people. They lose. And at the same time, the samurai also attack Irontown. And it's up to the women and the lepers to hold them off, which they are successful. In the midst of all the chaos, the hunters, the Jigo's companions, Jigo's ranger ninjas, and Eboshi shoot and kill the god of the forest. And then you have like the big boss fight moment. If we're talking about D&D, that is the big boss fight climax moment. Is you failed. The god is dying, and now it is in its wrathful death throes.
And that could be a really cool fight to do, whether it's the spirit of the forest or the Nightwalker, whatever it may be in this context, is either the big bad that your party is trying to kill, or you as the party are trying to kill, or defend. And whether you succeed or fail, that same thing could happen as a cool, it's not necessarily a second phase, but it's something really cool to happen if this is like a big boss that you've been planning for a while.
Especially, and let's say you're in Eboshi's party. The D&D party is Eboshi and her crew, and you're successful in pulling off this kill. You're probably thinking, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
And then, phase 2 happens, and they fight the Nightwalker, which is more or less an escape scene, where you're making rolls and stuff as you're running from this instant death. It's shown that whatever thing this Nightwalker touches, the ooze of the Nightwalker touches, dies.
And now
it has the power over life and death.
Now you're seeing the consequences of either your success or your failure, depending on how you made that fight. Cool either way.
And that's a pretty crazy.
It's a big one.
It'd be hard to do in D&D because it's like, all right, don't touch it. Everyone else is gonna die, but you're gonna need to make a con save. Yeah. But everyone else is gonna.
I mean, that's acceptable sometimes. We could see commoners, stuff happen to them, or stuff happen to NPCs.
Soldiers, yeah.
Exactly, that doesn't happen to us. That's okay. Sometimes. In moderation.
Sometimes as a treat. But basically, after that final fight, the spirit basically sacrifices itself. It is dead. It gets its head back and is like, I'm out. And after it destroyed the entire forest on its death throes, including the areas outside of Irontown, it dies, and then its body, its last will, is to basically blossom everything.
Yep.
The forest is back, and even the areas outside of Irontown are now beginning to heal.
Ashitaka is cured, and I think Eboshi even says like she's going to try to be better.
Yes,
right?
She does.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to work with the forest this time. We're going to rebuild Irontown, but better, because it did get destroyed.
The ending was really interesting sequence of events, because it's like, oh, everyone gets there, and now we have the combat scene trying to defend the deer god. And yeah, either, like Nate said, either you succeed or you fail. And then the consequences are catastrophe. And now skill checks. Everyone has to run. If you fail 3 times, you instant death because it's the ooze.
That'd be
something like
cool.
that. That'd be tense as hell, man. That'd be cool. And then you get to Jigo, and it's just like, all right, roll initiative for like a final combat thing with these 4 ninja guys, and
that sounds so fun. I'm just imagining running from this ooze, and you're making all these skill checks. If someone fails, say they fail their 3rd time, I would allow someone to use a reaction, but they take the fail on their counter up to 3. And, oh man, that would make so many fun. That is a great idea. Cool. So this world in general, it's great. After the campaign, and then you can go start taking on Asano. As a possible
easy setup for a next
tier of battle.
We would say the quest of this was Ashitaka, wants to cure himself, but then it also kind of becomes to cure the forest, to ease the conflict,
to balance, to bring balance between man and nature. And that's the ultimate metaphor of the film, and yeah.
And he does to his best extent. Yeah, what do you guys? What class do you guys think Ashitaka is?
He's a fighter warlock. That's what I'll call him.
So you think that the curse gives him, like, you would give him D&D like abilities from his curse?
Or you just give him like a belt of ogre strength, which pumps his strength to 19 when he gets cursed.
That's what I was thinking. I made him a ranger. I made him a beastmaster, in fact.
Wait, Ashitaka?
Yeah.
He does have an animal companion, to be fair.
Yeah, so I felt like he was the animal companion for his beastmaster ranger.
Okay, fair enough.
And I thought that San, I made her a barbarian, actually. I could see Vengeance Paladin, but just as far as D&D proper goes, she doesn't do a lot of smitey things or anything like that. She could be a totem wolf barbarian, though. I think pretty easy, and
she's just a tavern brawler.
She
doesn't
bites Emoshi's arm. She's like, ah.
San is she's an Oath of Vengeance rogue.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you can make her a lot of things. I think she's definitely Dexy.
But
she's pretty open.
Yeah, Oath of Vengeance Paladin fits her thematically as a character very much so, but none of her actual, we'll call it the mechanics of San. I'm still of the opinion that everyone is a fighter.
I think that Jigo is a rogue.
Oh yeah, people can be rogues too. In these we'll call them low magic films. Like, people could be rogues, barbarians, or fighters.
It would be great to see D&D type classes in this world. I would love to see how druids would be depicted in this kind of setting.
Shit, you could say that. What is it? Circle of the Moon druids are basically all the animal spirits. They're just shapeshifted. They're using their wild shape. It could the Boar tribe, the Boar clan, could be just a whole a circle of moon druids.
If what we do here is to basically show how you can take popular movies and stuff and turn them into a D&D campaign, this would be a great one to start with. It's simple. The lines are dark, and here are the lines. Like, it's hard to really color out of them unless you want to.
It's a very straightforward way to make a campaign that has a lot of gray, which normally isn't so easy to make.
I can't say enough about how good this world I would love to play if someone DM'd this world.
When you look at the three pillars, exploration, social, and combat, the exploration angle of this world is, oh my god, it's just so vast and allows for so many different cool things. The social stuff that we saw was kind of...
We're social D&Ders. We do a lot more social than I feel most groups.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the interactions we did see were sometimes very stilted, which can be very D&D, actually.
What do you mean?
There's one scene where when he meets Iboshi, and he says something like, I will see with eyes unclouded and decide for myself. And she's like, ha, all right, come on, I'll show you my secret. So, but the combat, I think, was also really good stuff. The combat stuff. Like, we start off with the demon boar god in the very beginning, then we have the samurai attack, then you're part of the wolves attacking the caravan. There's lots of good D&D combat.
It's got good bones, this movie.
So, what did you guys think that there was a most D&D moment of the film?
Of course. Yeah.
One of the ones that I wrote down was the thing I just said. And it was Ashitaka getting a nat 20, saying some weird things like, I will see with eyes unclouded. I was like, that was a nat 20 roll, because that was weird as hell, and I don't know why she's showing him her secret, but cool, let's do it.
Let's see, most D&D moment. I have to think about it. I for some reason I didn't consider this before we started.
I didn't really either.
I have another one while you guys are thinking. He leaves his village in the beginning, and he is set off on his thing. He comes over a hill, and there's samurai just running villagers down. And I was well, this is just a random combat encounter if I've ever seen one. Very much just bandits on the road, like a very classic staple of low-level D&D.
I think mine would be, it's not exactly translatable as a D&D moment, but when he first comes across the tree spirits, where the dude is like, he's afraid of them, and Ashitaka is like, oh, it's a tree spirit, he'll lead us the right way. I could totally see that happening to a party where, like, oh, one player or even an NPC who's with the party knows, like, oh, these tree spirits are friendly and they'll guide us places, and the tree spirits are like, hey, come this way, go this way. It's the DM's way of being like, hey, let's get this on the road and let's go in this direction.
Yeah, and
in
like,
a
you're
nice
not
way.
playing. Your party doesn't have an Ashitaka. You're just four guys scared out of their mind in the forest.
Exactly.
Like, oh man, I'm not following that. Okay, I think I got mine. Earning the respect of a faction. In this case, the wolves. Doing enough goodwill towards this faction into where they finally accept you, or don't at least want to outright kill you. And you get a positive sort of RP boost with them, in which you could possibly convince them to maybe fight on your side, type thing, or you have an advantage on persuading them to do certain things, which is kind of what happens when Ashitaka has to find San later in the film. But yeah,
what about which character would you guys most like to play, pulled from the movie? Like, you could create your own characters, like we talked about making druids and stuff, but if you had to pick a character of the movie.
Jigo
is a really good one. Jigo would be really fun to play. I've only played maybe a couple of that sort of character that has an ulterior motive in the party, Doesn't necessarily have to be, like, totally evil and against the party's wishes, but they have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
And that can be, if done well, very, very fun for everyone. That's a good one.
Yeah, so you can't pick Jigo. I picked Jigo.
Yeah.
Frick! No, the one that immediately came to mind for me that'd be really fun to play, San. Whoop! My voice cracked there. Hold on.
That's what I was going to pick. Now I got to pick somebody new.
It's okay, my voice cracked. We'll cut all of that out. Steve, what would your favorite? What? Steve, what would your preferred?
I would like to play San because she was raised by wolves. Like that alone, I think is just a great backstory. There's lots of cool backstories here. There's lots of cool thrusts into a campaign, I think, here. But personally, Raised by Wolves is just too classic to pass up. And I think that she is the most steadfast in her belief system. And so it would be really fun to, opposite of what you just said, Nate, it would be really fun to just be like, no, all humans can die.
Yeah. And it's just, it's so like, it's straightforward in like the most fun kind of way.
Yes.
What about you?
I think actually, I don't know if she could be considered a character in the party in this, but I mean, why not? Lady Eboshi.
I knew you were going to say that.
Of course.
I thought so too.
I mean, she's a great one. She has sort of...
she's got enough empathy to where she could change sides.
She's very relatable in a way, and you can empathize with her, and you can see like, wow, she's doing good things. But also, she's very steadfast in her ways. Like, she's not compromising, and she's done some bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And playing a character like that is, I think that's a lot of fun.
I think I'm going to change my answer to Billy Bob Thornton.
Ah, yeah. The wild card.
The wild card, yeah. But, all right, guys. That was our episode covering Princess Mononoke and how you can use the content in a D&D campaign.